Hello, everybody. Welcome to our next episode of Beyond the Red Door podcast. I'm joined by my lovely co-host again, Dominick Perry. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good. We're also joined by our special guest, Nick Quarberg. How are you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Oh, phenomenal. It's the new year.
Yeah, Happy
Isn't
New Year.
Happy New Year, guys. We're dating our stuff because I was about to say Happy Holidays too and maybe throw people off, but um, but yeah. So we're into the new year. We're kicking up some stuff on the podcast, doing some new stuff. But we thought we'd bring on probably one of the most decorated guests we've had on here. I would say, right, Corberg? You're the
I
past undergrad president, vice president of recruitment, a Ruck scholar, a national board of directors selection committee at the 2019 National Conclave. We got a lot to break down here. Where do you want to start at?
it's kind of a I don't want to be too much of a humble brag, but yeah, I mean
but
quite the quite
yeah,
the amount of
Hype yourself
titles.
up here. Hype yourself up here.
Well, do you want to start like breaking down what I did, or do you want to?
Yeah. Let's start. Let's start
Okay.
all the way back at the beginning. Let's start joining SigEp. What happened there? How did you find out about it? What got you committed towards it? And we'll go from
So
there.
okay, so I was a freshman in or fall of 2016, and I actually applied for the BMS scholarship, and I just remember like getting this random postcard in the mail one summer, and I was like, sure, because I was applying for a lot of scholarships, so I mean, it was just another opportunity for me to get hopefully another scholarship, so it would kind of lessen the amount I would have to pay down the road. So I didn't really think anything of it, and I remember I was interviewed by Mitch Burkholder, and so I remember him coming to my house. We kind of sat down and just talked about college. He asked me some questions about scholarship and then my thoughts on kind of how I live my life. So that was kind of my first experience with SigEp. I didn't really think anything of it. I thought it was a little strange that fraternity was running a scholarship. So I like the first thing I remember is my mom asking him was like, "Do I have to join?" Because I know she was a little hesitant about me joining Greek life. And so there definitely was like some preconceived notions in the back of my mind about, what Greek life was, what it had to offer. So, I mean, I showed up to school. I was there actually a little bit early because I was in the Marching Pioneers during college. So we started a week before classes began. That's when we like did our little summer camp. So I was there early, but I remember my first event being at was what was the name of the lake that we'd always go to? I can't think of it. It's not Harrison Park, right?
it's
No,
Blackhawk
that's
Lake.
Oh,
Blackhawk
Blackhawk
Lake. There
Lake.
you go.
Yep, that's the one. So that was the first event I remember going to. And again, I was a little hesitant, thought it was a little strange, but I still showed up. And so looking back, I really enjoyed the event. And then going to all the recruitment events, I really enjoyed it. And then I also, too, kind of remember getting my bid. So it was like a Wednesday or Tuesday night or something. I can't really remember, but I actually lived down the hall from my current brother at the time, and he just knocked on the door and asked if I could come down to his room. I was like, sure. And I remember he was with Jake. He was roommates with Jake Ran. So I knew who he was because, well, Jake's very recognizable. So so I knew who Jake was at that time. So we were in their dorm room. Like I said, they just lived right down the hall. So they extended me my bid. And so they told me I had a week to kind of decide. So I definitely used all that week time to make the decision. I consulted my parents about it, did a little research on what SigEp was, kind of read through their material online. And actually, what sold me was a sit down meeting with Mitch again, Mitch Burkholder. So he can take all the credit for getting me to join. But I think we had a meeting in the marquee, and he just kind of sat me down and said, "Hey, look, like whatever you're going to put into this opportunity, you're going to get out of." So, I mean, with all of the amazing things that like SigEp offers its members, whether it be through its membership development, whether it be through its membership programming, its stances on different things, such as like no hazing, the SLC now that it has to offer. So, I mean, that's really what sold me. And so, looking back, it's definitely one of the best decisions I ever made in my life was to join SigEp because I mean, just giving me the opportunity to develop myself and especially meet you guys too. I know like just the camaraderie and the way that you guys were able to push me, especially members of my class. I think that was probably the most special thing about that is just having a group of people that you know you can count on and that will push you to become better. And looking back, I wish I would have spent a little more time with you guys because I know too that all of you were very instrumental in my life. So, but yeah, that kind of led me into, I know like as I first joined, I was a little weird to kind of get involved on the executive board. And so I kind of waited and I was thrown into vice president of recruitment. And I think it would have been the fall of 18, I think. That sounds right. It was it was fall of 18. So that was kind of my first experience on the exec board. And I was kind of entrusted with a lot, kind of taking over in the middle of summer, just with special circumstances. So put a lot on my plate and I try to do my best. And I know, I don't even remember how many, we had somewhere around like 30 or 40 bids out. So I remember at that time, like you and me, Austin, we were kind of working together on that, trying to get, as many new guys as possible into the chapter just to continue to grow. Because that was definitely one of the things that headquarters had mentioned in our feedback from our Buchanan Cup. So that was definitely something that we were focusing on. And so that was, again, my first experience on the exec board. And I thought, during the elections in that fall, I'd take it to the next step and try to run for president because there was definitely a way that I thought the chapter should go and what our members thought. Because I remember sitting down with a lot of members and discussing that. And so I'm really glad I took that opportunity and ran for president. Again, a great experience. And looking back, like where I am today, I think that was very, very instrumental in what I did. So.
Yeah, I want to talk about that recruitment year because that was wild. Like
it was.
Obviously got thrown into it for the fall for the actual BMS stuff, but like we also had, like you had just mentioned there, like we nationals had like come to us and were like, "Yo, like we want to try to change some stuff up." And let's talk about that a bit because like it was it Tom Godlowski, right, and Eric Angus at the time.
Yeah,
and they were like, kind of in the... Go ahead, you talk about it. Like it was wild. Like we were doing a whole bunch of new stuff.
Yeah, I kind of remember in the previous spring before that, when the new executive board had taken over, just kind of not like totally changing our recruitment process. Because I remember going when we went to when we went to CLA, we had kind of, I remember because we were with Scott Phillips, and that was. That guy he is a great speaker. Yeah, he's a great guy. So, but I remember sitting in that session, just you and me working together, talking through what our problems were and how they were similar with other chapters kind of in the Midwest, what we could do to implement that. And I think we had a vision of what we wanted to do, kind of presented that to the chapter and worked on implementing that in the spring and the fall. And I know, obviously, we wanted to get as many members to join as possible, and I thought we did a really good job of kind of laying the groundwork for what future VPs of recruitment would be doing in their position, and kind of how we approach recruitment at UW-Platteville. Just because, considering like the different demographics that the campus has, I think one of the biggest things to overcome is like Platteville is very unique because the campus is so small, but I think it's like 4 or 5% of the student body is involved in some way in Greek life. So, and especially too, like as we move like post-COVID too, I'm sure, I mean, I wasn't there, but I know it was definitely a struggle to get members to join with like COVID implemented policies during recruitment was definitely a challenge. But I think where they are now today is they're in a great spot. And I don't want to take all the credit because it was definitely a team effort between everyone that was on our cabinet and everyone in the chapter also pushing to recruit. But I think the process that we came up with and what we decided to do really worked well and has definitely set us up to be successful. So,
yeah, I mean, and I have another note on our like bulletin board about it, but like I felt that at the time, you were one of the first like presidents that really like took the reins and like we were like, we want to win a Buchanan Cup here in the next couple of years. Like, what do we need to do? Like, you had a whole plan written out. we actually
Mhm.
started like tracking a lot of our stuff that we needed to do, holding everybody accountable. And like I said, like I feel like you were one of the first people that kind of did that, or that like it was showing in terms of the results that we were getting around the board, like not just with specific positions, like just recruitment or just programming. Like it was making everybody better as a whole. And then year after year after year, everybody built off of that leadership that you had.
Mhm.
I don't know. Like, do you feel like that was the same way? Because I mean, like I said, in terms of how I saw it, like that's what it's looked like now past couple of years.
Yeah, I know. Definitely when we joined, the chapter was in a different situation where they are today. And one thing that really inspired me was all the people that had come before us, and we had been so close to being a Buchanan Cup chapter. And now the kind of the running joke was like we were one of the best chapters in the country without a Buchanan Cup, and I really wanted to change that mantra and that saying. And I knew we had what it took. It was just taking like those small extra steps to really push us over the edge. And I think that was definitely a team effort. It wasn't just me. But I think the biggest thing was just accountability. And I don't want to say like members were slacking off. I think, like I said, it was just doing like those extra small things to really make us stand out on the application, whether it be through our event programming that we were doing with brothers, or whether it be through recruitment and retention. So I know that was like one of the biggest things we struggled with. And even now, I remember, I think it was when we were sophomores, implementing the GPA change, bumping that up to a 3.0, correct? It was like was it from like a 2.85 to a 3, right? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
somewhere around there we had done different things. It's been a while.
Yeah, but I know bumping that GPA up definitely encouraged our brothers to study harder and work harder at school, because I mean, there's one goal of being at school is to get your diploma. But I think we acted as a good asset to brothers trying to get their diploma by offering, again, like programming outside of the classroom. It's the experiences outside of the classroom are just as important as what you learn in the classroom too. I would like to say that, but yeah, that was definitely one of the most important things there with that. So
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I mean you kind of already mentioned like some of your presidency stuff, but I didn't know if you wanted to go more in depth about any of it. In
I
terms
guess
of like different
the only
things
thing
that
I'd
you did.
add is going to Ruck too was really good. Oh, the dog's barking.
That's okay. Fix it
Um,
in post.
so Pioneer, come here. 1 second. I'll get him to stop. Hey, go downstairs. Come here. Oh my goodness. Go downstairs, okay? Go downstairs. Christy will get him to stop barking, I think.
It's no worries.
Sorry.
No, you're
No,
okay.
you're good.
Yeah, no, talk about Ruck, because I feel like I don't want to. Were you one of the first people, or like you and your group that you went with, like the first ones in like a bit that had that opportunity to go? I was trying to remember how many people.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, because I think, well, Chad had gone. I think the summer or two before I went, because it was me and Clem,
You're
or
right.
Clem and I.
You're right.
I think,
I thought you guys went together. I don't know why I thought that.
but I know like before I actually didn't even almost apply. I actually applied on the day of the deadline, because I think it was Austin McCain had reached out and he's like, "Hey, I want you to apply for Ruck." And I was like, "Why?" Like I was like, I don't think I'm gonna win. Like I'm not that special. But he's like, just working with you, and I mean, and what I've seen you do and what you're capable of, he's like, I think you should apply and you'd have a good chance of winning. And sure enough, I don't remember when they announced like the scholars, but I kind of remember sitting there, I was like, wow. I was kind of blown away in the fact that like I would be one of the lucky few selected from around the country to attend Rock, because especially after when Chad had gone and he just talked about the experiences, I thought it would definitely be something that would be good. And I was really excited too when Clint got in, because then I wouldn't be going by myself. I mean, obviously we didn't end up being on the same team, but I think going to Ruck and meeting other guys from around the country was awesome. It was really special too, with just the different kind of programs that we do there. breaking it down by just like setting your personal goals for the rest of your life, figuring out like what your true morals are, and doing different activities to kind of figure out what kind of person you are and where you see yourself down the road in 10 to 20 years. It was a great experience. And then being able to be at the University of Richmond where SigEp was founded was really cool too. So I think just the whole experience was one once in a lifetime. And if I could go back again, I definitely would. So, but I think that just kind of shows like the amazing things that SigEp does for you as it allows yourself to grow. That's definitely one of the programs that they offer that really, really takes the experience to the next level. So I'm really fortunate that I had the opportunity to go.
Yeah, we had the last year's Ruck Scholars on one of the earlier podcasts that we did, and it was fantastic to listen to the stories that they got to tell about it. And we just need to do we should just do like a huge one, Dom, with like all the Ruck Scholars that are willing to come
that'd
on
be a
and
lot
just
of
talk
fun.
about the different things, like a roundtable kind of thing. That'd be a good one.
And I know, unfortunately, too, like even above Ruck would be Tragos, and we've never had a brother go from our chapter, but I
don't think so. I think they were pretty confident this year about it, and they ended up falling short by just a little bit. But I think they had like 3 people that applied.
But yeah, I mean, the only way you can get in is by applying, and I kind of wish I would have applied for Tragos because that definitely would have been an amazing experience. But hopefully one day someone will get to go from our chapter, and we'll get to hear from the experiences. But I know definitely that piece of programming as well is even above Ruck and what it has to offer. So
yeah, let's talk about Conclave. 2019 Conclave, right, in Houston. So we had a fun group that kind of went for that one, but let's talk about that whole process, why we ended up going, what we got, or like what you got to do there, and your experience, and yeah.
So that was again another awesome programming event that the fraternity runs. So I think I can't remember if I had received like an email in the middle of summer to inform me that I was selected to be on the selection committee. And so again, I was kind of taken aback of what people in the SigEp community thought of me and what I had to offer. So that was a really cool experience. Being able to sit down and interview candidates was really cool, and to discuss. I think there was 20 or 25 of us on the committee, so it was really cool to sit down and talk with them and kind of lay out what we thought the future held for SigEp. And obviously we didn't foresee the pandemic coming, but I think one of the most important things we talked about was just the mental health and the stability of brothers as we moved into the future. So I know that was definitely at the forefront of what we envisioned for the fraternity. So that was a really cool experience. And then just being at Conclave too is also amazing. Being with so many other brothers, the programming events that they offer, like the dinner programming events that they do, the whole Buchanan Cup ceremony, that was really cool just to be a part of. Like there's so much energy in that room, and just sitting there hoping and anticipating that your chapter wins the Buchanan Cup. I know, unfortunately, we were not, when we were there, we did not win, but which kind of stunk because we really thought we were close. And I know, like, we sat down basically the next day and kind of discussed, what our action steps were for to win the Buchanan Cup 2 years later, and then ultimately we did. But I know, just again, like the energy in the room is amazing, and being around all the other brothers that are there for the same reason it was pretty cool. And I know, besides like outside of the programming events that were at Conclave, just spending time with our, like, I know Austin, you were there, I think Chad and Jake were there, and then we had a couple other alumni that were there as well. But just being able to build our relationships, and just in our free time too, like I'm pretty sure we went to the Astros game, and then we spent a lot of time around the pool because it was nice out. And so
but I think had to,
yeah. So just being there and doing that as well was really cool. So
for sure, yeah. So I mean, the 2 biggest takeaways I can take from that is, one, undergrads, apply for all the scholarship opportunities that you guys can do, because you never know when you're going to get picked for things, or being able to advocate for yourself for some of those. And go to Conclave. It's a great opportunity. I know, obviously, we had the last one where we won our Buchanan Cup, and I didn't have the opportunity to go to that one, and that would have been a great experience. But things are looking good this upcoming, right? It's this next year, this upcoming
Yeah,
one.
this summer.
Yeah, it should be.
It's in San Antonio.
Is it?
San Antonio. Yeah, San Antonio.
Oh, the last one is in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
My mind is blurred right now, but but yeah, so definitely try to get those opportunities to go. I mean, I think I don't want to say anything, but I think like in the past we've sponsored people to go for different things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great opportunity. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about in terms of your undergrad time in SigEp and different positions that you held and different opportunities you had?
The only thing I would say is just if there's anyone in the undergraduate chapter listening, like don't be afraid to get involved. I think looking back, if that was one thing that I would do differently, would just try to get involved as early as possible, because those experiences are definitely going to benefit you in the future.
So with all of that kind of building up into who you then are, let's kind of transition to who you are now.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about kind of, what led you to your first job, kind of, the transition of where you are now, your house, your dog, everything and that sort of.
Yeah, so I graduated in 2020 with a degree in environmental horticulture, kind of with a goal to be a major league groundskeeper. And so my first job out of college was kind of like a long internship. And unfortunately, we graduated during COVID. Or I graduated during COVID. So kind of put a little bit of twist on my plans. So I actually worked for the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers in Appleton. They're a minor league affiliate of the Milwaukee Brewers. And they actually ended up being the taxi squad host for the Brewers that summer. So it was a little bit different than what I was expecting to do. So we basically prepared the field and got it ready for them to do batting practice. They would take like infield, and then they would do different drills with the pitchers, and then do like 2 to 3 innings of simulated games at the end of the night, just to kind of keep them in shape, just in case they would get the call that, a player would go on the injured reserve or COVID list because they had COVID. So it was a little different than what I had done before. The previous summer I had interned with the Brewers. That was a really good experience, and that really got me excited about what I wanted to do. And after that summer, I knew I wanted to stay in groundskeeping. So that really opened the door to a lot of the opportunities I have had today. And then actually the following winter, spring, so that would be 2021, I accepted a job and moved to Pittsburgh to work for the Pirates as a field maintenance supervisor. So that was really truly like my first full-time experience in groundskeeping. And I'm still working here today, obviously. I just actually got promoted this summer because we had a guy leave. So I'm now the manager of field events. So my job has changed a little bit. So I now, instead of like being there for the games, I work in the mornings now instead of coming in at like noon to work from noon to the end of the game. So I'm working the mornings, and then I kind of oversee like all the special events that we have in the field, whether it be like high school games. We have a couple graduation ceremonies I think we're going to do this upcoming year. So at those events, I kind of oversee the field while the other guys are on break and they're taking their time off. So it balances out, but it definitely has made my schedule more consistent. But yeah, so I've really, really enjoyed working for the Pirates, and I'm hoping this year the team itself is a little more successful than they've been in the past. But I think just working with the guys that I work with, I'm really blessed to have good coworkers that we have fun when we work. So that's definitely a big thing about being a groundskeeper in baseball. Since we're at work so much, I think having good coworkers definitely makes the job better. And then outside of work, like Dom had mentioned, we moved in. Christy and I, my wife, we purchased our first house in March of 21. So we're coming up on 2 years living here, and we've done a lot of home improvement projects. Big thanks to Christy's dad. I don't think he's going to listen to the podcast, but he definitely helped us make some improvements to the house. I mean, it's a great starter home, and unfortunately, during the time when we were looking for houses, when the market was super crazy, and so I think we put in offers on at least 8 or 9 other houses, and we finally got this one. So really crazy, but we being new to the area, we didn't know exactly like what part of the city we wanted to live to, and I think like we made a really good decision. We really enjoy where we live. We're so close to Christy works downtown, and I'm just right across the river from downtown, so it's only like a 20-minute drive usually. So we're really fortunate actually of where we ended up living. So, but yeah, I mean, now is kind of my free time in the winter per se. Definitely not working as much, so I can do more projects at home that I want to get done and just spend more time with Christy and our dog Pioneer. Dom had also mentioned. So he's a mini Australian Shepherd. We got him in it was Christmas of 2020. So he just turned 3 in October, but he definitely keeps us busy, keeps us on our toes. Usually I end up walking him usually most of the time. So he has a lot of energy and likes to play. So that's definitely a good thing too. So
Yeah. Were you like was being like working for like an MLB team and like being on the grounds crew, like was that always your dream job? I mean, like I know you didn't start with that major, but like was it something that was always just kind of there and you're like, I like this is something I'm gonna do eventually? Like,
yeah, so my initial goal, like when I first came to college, I was a civil engineer. I was kind of hoping to get into like designing. Growing up, I really liked architecture and designing buildings. So I wanted to work on potentially down the road, work to design like large buildings, especially large stadiums was something that interested me a lot. But as I kind of got into it, I didn't really enjoy it too much. And always kind of in the back of my mind for some reason, like I grew up in the summers, I would work in my aunt and uncle's farm in kind of north central Wisconsin. So I really like doing that. I was able to be outside, obviously running equipment, which I just enjoy in general, and not just being like the jobs continuously change, so you're not doing like the same thing every day. And so also too, growing up, like I always mowed our lawn growing up, helped my parents outside in the garden, and I just enjoyed doing it. I have no idea why, but it's something that it's being able, I enjoy being able to work towards a goal and see progress while I do it. And that's definitely something I can do with my job. And I'm able to be a perfectionist too. So I think that's something that really made that stand out. And so when I found out that I didn't even know you could like do turf management, I didn't really know it was a job per se. Um, so that's really what inspired me to change my major and pursue it. And like I had mentioned, that internship with the Brewers was really made it fortified it in my mind that I wanted to do that. And so I think too, like growing up, I was a big baseball fan and I just enjoy being around sports. So that's definitely something that inspired me to be a groundskeeper. And I'm glad that I went down this path because it's definitely opened a lot of doors and it's a unique and an amazing job. So
yeah, I think that's like the best way to describe it. Like it's so unique. Like it's not something you hear of every day. But
yeah,
like it's an awesome opportunity that you were able to discover and find, and it's like just it's good to know like for anybody listening, like good to know that there's like plenty of these like dream job opportunities that you can find. You just have to kind of like look into that kind of thing. Like who knows, you might find something like you did that lets you do this incredible job that you're doing. So
yeah,
um
for sure.
yeah. All right. We talked about it at the beginning or before we started recording, but there was a viral video that was then posted on lots of
Mm.
social media, including our social media, um, involving you chasing a squirrel at a baseball game. Um, Talk to us about this. Like, if you went viral. I mean, it was all over the news. So, like, you got to talk to us about being famous, Quarberg. Like, what's going on?
Well, so I don't even remember. It was like in June or July. I don't really remember. The whole summer is kind of like a blur. But I do remember on that specific evening, we were we weren't in. I know the game started late because we were in like a weather situation, and we had the tarp on before the game started, and I think pulled it off when we started like 30 or 40 minutes late. I don't exactly remember, but so every night, one of the nice things about working for the team is that they give us dinner. They give us a meal in press dining, so it's kind of if they don't show it in the video, but our kind of area on the field. So like when we come out to do like our fifth and seventh inning drags, our area is kind of it's just at the end of the Pirates dugout. So usually we'll like watch the game there for like the first inning, then we'll go up and eat. So we had gone up to eat, and we were just sitting there like eating our dinner, and the game is on. So we're watching the game, and we all were kind of like done eating, looking at our phones, and then our intern looks up at the TV and he's like, "Hey guys, there's a squirrel on the field." And so we all instantly like jump up from the table and just run down there. And like looking back, our first instinct was just to grab something like we could potentially catch the squirrel with. So I think like I grabbed a towel, hoping we could maybe coerce it into a bucket, which was not a fantastic idea, but in the moment, you're trying to figure out what the best way to do it would be. So we were all down there. The umpire saw us. They called a stoppage in play because he was running out in the outfield. So we all kind of ran out. Very not a great plan. We didn't really plan on what we were gonna do.
You guys have a squirrel protocol, like a playbook in case you have an animal on the field?
No, I mean it's kind of like one of those experiences that you kind of have to do it in the moment, but you think in the back of your mind like, okay, we got to do this. Like there's like I wouldn't say hundreds, but there's a few videos of like other grounds crews in the Major League Baseball too that like they've dealt with like cats and squirrels and bees on the field too. So all the situations are different. But in the back of my mind, I knew like, okay, if we can corner this thing, we should be able to get it in the bucket. And we just kept chasing it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And we looked like fools. And so fortunately, it decided to run in the bullpen. So we kind of got it under the Cubs bench, and it was super mad. Like it was yelling at us. So we got under there, and then it ran into the back hallway, and we got it kind of stuck behind some pipes, and it didn't want to move. So we put like towels on the side of the pipe, and then I don't exactly remember, but we kind of got it to come down from the pipe, and we had a bucket right under there, and it fell in the bucket, covered the bucket, and we took it outside and put it, because the stadium's like right next to the river. So there's like a little river walk area, and we went under the bridge, and there was like a small like wooded area that we put him in, and hopefully he never comes back. But fortunately, I'm so fortunate that he ran to the bullpen, because once we got him in the back hallway, it was fine. But like looking back, if we could have just kind of got like if the three of us would have lined up and we just would have pushed him off the field, it would have been so much better. But yeah, It definitely wasn't. Looking back, we laugh at it, but at the same time too, you kind of feel like you could have handled the situation better. So it was a unique experience.
You need like a break glass in case of an animal and like get like a net gun or something.
Well, it's kind of funny because down in our little, we call it the hole. So that's like where we store all of our equipment. Well, there's actually nets in there for drones. And so, because I don't know if you remember, I think it was during COVID, because people were I think it was at a Twins game. Someone like flew a drone and they had to stop play. And so it was like basically hovering right over the field. So we had a drone net, so I don't know how you'd ever catch the drone, but they have nets on that you can throw on the drone that it would potentially get caught in there and damage the drone, so you could catch it. But the holes on the net are just a little too big, and I know one of the other guys had grabbed one, and I think he threw it on the squirrel and it just got out. So, but it was not a great situation.
For those that haven't seen it, we're going to try to either impose it into the video so you can watch it while we're talking, or just link it in the comments so you'll see it. But it was definitely a great watch. And like I said, it made you famous on Twitter, and made you famous on the Wisconsin Theta pages. Do you have any other like funny stories from working? Like obviously like that was unique one just because it was broadcast everywhere, but I'm sure there's been some other stuff that you've encountered while you've been working that. I don't know that, or if you can't tell it, that's fine too. Like maybe that's secretive.
Well, I know like just like working our long hours, there's always like a lot of weird things that come up and a lot of weird things you see, especially when we're doing like concert builds and everything. So, I mean, there's times where I was at work for like 12 to 15 hours just trying to get the field ready. So you definitely see a lot of weird things happen. But I think a cool experience would be when I worked for the Brewers, we got to go on the roof and go down the slide. So that was really cool. I'm so scared of heights, but I knew that like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like I have to take it. So we went down Bernie's slide first. That was really cool. And I know like people always say like, oh, it's so scary, it's so high. Well, that wasn't too bad. And then we went to the roof next. So we kind of, I don't know if you're familiar with American Family Field, but so it's like a retractable roof and you're able to walk over the lower panels. There's like a catwalk, small catwalk, and that's where the lights are mounted. So we were able to walk on the catwalk. And I remember like there was like a group of 10 of us and they all like not scared of heights just started walking. They were all waiting up for me at the middle of it's kind of like a rainbow. So they were waiting at the middle of the rainbow for me and I was like a quarter of the way up there. They were yelling at me, making fun of me because I was like holding on for dear life on the side of the railings, just like slowly step by step making it up to the top. You know, it was really cool to see the field. So, I mean, I took some good pictures, but that was definitely a cooler experience. Being able to do that was really cool. So, but yeah, I mean, there's just different things that come up, all the different things that we do and the cool equipment that we get to use to do our job is definitely one of the better things about what we do. So.
Yeah, definitely sounds like it. I mean, I probably would have been scared too, to be honest. Like that seems really high. Like I don't know if heights are my biggest fear, but I don't know. It's still kind of scary.
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked about a lot of different things today, like where you're at now, like the different things you had during SigEp. Is there one like defining moment in your SigEp like career that you'd say, or even if you have a couple that you want to talk about? Like we said, like you've listed and talked about like so many different opportunities that you've had, but is there something that kind of stuck out from the rest?
I think so. When I did change my major, that was kind of I don't want to call it like a defining moment, but it really showed me that there was other people there I could lean on because it was definitely a challenging time. So I think being able to lean on everyone during that time. I mean, just all like during that time too, all the programming that we did, and just being able to hang out with you guys on the weekends and on Friday nights, like offering somewhere else to go. You know, I mean, it gets chaotic on college campuses on the weekend, but I know that being able to just hang out with brothers, and I know like we played a lot of Fortnite because that was really popular. Just coming over and like having movie nights was definitely nice to get away from that and kind of relax a little bit too. So I'm trying to think of like a specific moment that made my experience worth it. And I know there was a lot of different times where I was really happy that just in general that I was a brother in SigEp. I think probably one of the most things I'm proud of, like just our chapter in general, and that made me feel really special. Like when I was first elected president, just like going to different events and people come up to you, you're the face of the chapter. So I think it was definitely challenging to kind of balance like my the way I acted around other people, like just always telling myself like you have to remember like you are the face of this organization, so you need to be very careful and meticulous with what you do, but at the same time too, like you need to be able to convey your message well. And so that was, I think, one of the most challenging things that I dealt with. But at the same time, too, representing the chapter on campus, at whether it be like at different functions, whether it be at IFC or UGC, was definitely a cool experience because I really thought at the time, and I still believe that like we are the best Greek life organization on campus, and that kind of inspires you and fires you up when you go to those different events. Kind of being a little cocky, like, oh, I'm a SigEp, like we're the good ones on campus, and it you can definitely tell like people. I don't want to like use jealous, but you can definitely tell like, or I could definitely tell that other chapters knew who we were and why we were there, and so. I think the one that really stood out was at the leadership awards when we won, because I remember when we first joined, we had won so many oak leaves, and we had written it in the Buchanan Cup application. I want to say it was like 13 or 14 out of the 19 years we were on campus, we had won that oak leaf award, and we hadn't won it in like 2 or 3 years. And I think when we won that award, it really turned the corner and righted the ship per se in a better direction. And I remember at that ceremony just them reading off all those lists of accomplishments of what we had accomplished over that last year really made me think back and say like, wow, we did all of those things as a chapter, and I was really proud of what we had accomplished and where we were heading. So that was probably that was probably the coolest moment, I think, as an undergraduate, was being recognized for all the good that we did as a chapter, and how we changed other people's lives in our chapter, and how we really were truly the leaders on campus. So, and I mean, even another cool moment, even though I wasn't an undergraduate, but I was on the committee, and we all did a really good job of writing the Buchanan Cup application. It was a great group effort. Just having that organized and submitting that application was a really cool experience. And then, unfortunately, like Austin too, I couldn't be at Conclave, but I remember watching. I was actually working a Pirates game and watching it during the game in the corner. But when they announced us, I'd watched the whole ceremony, and they got down to the last one, and I was like, oh my goodness, I don't think it's going to be us. And then they started showing the last video, and it ended up being us. I think that was, as an alumni, that was an amazing moment, and that really was like the pinnacle of what we had worked for as undergraduates, and the work had finally paid off. So I hope it continues to pay off, and we continue to win Buchanan Cups, because I know our chapter is definitely capable of that. But I think those two experiences are definitely the biggest ones as an undergraduate and alumni that I think really made my SigEp experience stand out.
I think the Buchanan Cup moment is like so impactful too, because like you had said and we had talked about earlier, like we were at Conclave when like we almost won one, and like we were like very confident, having those feelings again where it's like, all right, this looks like our chapter, like this sounds good, and then like the stars didn't make the right symbols, are like god dang it. But yeah, like
yeah, you're sitting
to, like,
there and they're like reading out all these accomplishments, like chapter of like 25, and we're like, okay, that's us. Like 3.2 GPA, or like, okay, that's us. And then they would like list off some random accomplishment, and we're like, oh, that's not us. But that was like the same thing the last summer watching this video. Like everyone was the same way, and we're like, come on, that has to be us. And then finally we were at the end, and it was so grateful. But yeah, I'm really sad we weren't able to be there.
I bet they did it on purpose. They're like,
yeah,
like Tom like rigged some stuff around. He's like, let's put them at the end, like really get to them,
really mess with
them. Yeah, but no, I think talking about like how you represented the chapter, like I had already said, like there was not to say that stuff was going in a bad direction, but I felt like being able to, you were like one of the first people that like really put this plan into place for the Buchanan Cup, and like started tracking all this stuff. Like you made this like however many cell spreadsheet that had all the data that we needed to collect, and then we obviously use that data when we're writing the Buchanan Cup applications. I mean, when we wrote the one that year that we didn't win it, we were like scrambling, like looking all through the paperwork, trying to find different things. And then after her presidency, it was like, oh, like we have all this stuff on a spreadsheet now that we track, makes filling out the application like a million times easier. So like, again, like I'm sure that was a good moment that you were able to be on that committee for like using the documentation that you had made for going forward. Like it makes sense.
Yeah, that was One thing I didn't mention too, I think we were like one of the only chapters that applied for the Oakleaf Award that year before, and I remember like when Val was reading off the like description of the chapter that won, she had mentioned like I had submitted an application that was, I don't even remember how many pages it was, but I definitely spent probably a little too much time on that application, but I wanted to make it like so good that we would be the ones who won. And it was definitely like a 4 or 5 page application, I think, compared to like the application should just be like a 2 or 3 page application. But I definitely put probably a little too much time, but I really wanted us to win. So
I think it's good that you did that. It's definitely went a long way for sure.
yeah, I think just one more thing I'd add to is like having the exec board that I did definitely made my job so much easier. And I think like just the people in the chapter too were all, I guess I could use inspired, but they definitely were looking forward to what we could accomplish. So it was definitely a team effort.
And you had a great vision.
So now that you've been all this, done all that, done your time, is there any advice you'd like to give to anyone who's potentially watching this?
I think again, like I had mentioned earlier, like don't be scared or don't be afraid to pursue what you want to do. You're ultimately it comes down to what you want to do, like me. So I think one of the big things of college is like learning about yourself and learning what you really want to do. And I think just don't be scared of what lies ahead of you. After college life can be a little scary because it's not, you got to find structure and searching for that structure while balancing your mental health, while balancing a car payment, while balancing insurance payments, while balancing with like rent or mortgage. Like there's a lot of things that happen after college, I think. So to like, especially in college, like just enjoy your time. I think that's a big thing is enjoy your time in college. I don't want to say like being in the real world is bad because it definitely has its moments where it's not great, but at the same time too, like you're fortunate that you put in the time and effort in college to get where you are today. But yeah, just don't be scared of what you want to accomplish because if you set your mind to it, you can definitely do it. So
Mhm.
Fantastic advice. Everybody listening, undergrads included, specifically the undergrads, but everybody.
yeah,
Definitely take heed of that.
I know in college too, like being involved in more organizations besides SigEp too was really good because it definitely helps you learn time management skills, which is important in your job and post college life. So, and being able to meet other people on campus besides SigEps, but I know like a lot of the organizations I was involved in, we have heavily infiltrated because we just enjoyed doing that, like Student Senate. That was a good experience too. But yeah, just don't be scared. Get involved and really, it's again whatever you want to do, don't be scared to achieve it. So.
Well, we talked about a lot of different things today. Before we head out, Quarberg, is there anything else that you wanna share, talk about, discuss, or Dom you as well? Anything that you wanna add on to from everything we've talked about?
I don't have anything else to add.
Nothing.
No.
All right. Well, well, this was an awesome opportunity, Quarberg. I know you were one of the first people that when we were talking about like starting a podcast, we're like, we're gonna get Quarberg on, and you would volunteer to do it, and then you got busy with baseball, and then it was like, well, shoot, when are we gonna actually have time? But now that we've had this opportunity, like it was a great episode.
Mhm.
If anybody is looking to go into a career working for the MLB, talk to Quarberg. Can hook you up with something, I'm sure. I don't know if that's in your authority, but I'm sure that you could do something.
I guess one thing too I'd add, I mean, just reach out to alumni too, like whatever field you're interested in being in. Like we have a great network of alumni that are definitely willing to talk to you about what you want to do. So use that resource too. I guess I should have talked about that in the last segment, but
we'll save it for
now I
another.
remembered it.
We'll get you back on.
All right.
Yeah, it was great to catch up with you and get you on here. I know it's been a little bit since we've talked, but yeah, we enjoyed having you. And if nobody else has any closing thoughts, we'll let you go back to, because you're how many hours out of us?
Just one.
Just
one. Oh, never mind. That's not bad. I don't know why I thought it was more than that.
He is like in
I don't know my
UK
time. I
or
don't know my
something.
time zones. What? All right, we're getting out of hand. We're getting out of hand. We'll let you go. Everybody,
right.
make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, watch the video of Quarberg chasing the squirrel. It's gonna be a good one. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.